A few years ago, one of the things that we wanted to do was kind of come up with the rules of front-end planning. So I've come up with the rules. Here's a definition of a paradigm, a typical example, and so on and so forth. The idea that we could look across a spectrum of projects, and we did that, and figure out what were the important components that make most projects do better than other projects. So I'm going to give those to you. And again, probably they sound kind of high level, but I can give a few examples as we go. So, and I used a little referee over there. We ended up writing this up, and I think the name of this was Front-End Planning, Break the Rules, Pay the Price. A little bit more water here. The reality of it is we probably should have changed that and said, adhere to the rules and you'll get a big benefit. We were being negative, and positive usually sells more, ice cream and those kind of things. So we probably should have been a little more positive. So let me talk through these real quickly. And again, you've got to think about how we were looking. We were looking at projects and organizations that were more successful with their projects in the one hand and less successful in the other. We did pairs of projects from organizations that were doing projects. So we were looking for a project that was less successful and more successful. And here are the things that we found. One, that those projects that were more successful followed a defined front-end planning process, and they had one and they actually adhered to it. We found that those projects that used the right tools during the front-end planning process, and that's not only decision support tools, but also simulations, cost estimating packages, and those kinds of things, were more successful than those that just felt like we're going to do planning, we'll put a few words up on the board somewhere, and that's it. Those projects that were diligent about looking at the existing conditions of the sites that they were getting ready to go to, whether it was a brownfield site or a greenfield site, if they diligently looked into those site conditions, not only the geotechnics and hydrology and all those engineering terms, but also looked at the political issues, looked at the requirements for code and so on and so forth, those projects were more successful than the projects that didn't do that. We found out that those projects that really put the contracting strategy together that best met their needs were more successful. Excuse me. I've got allergic to something here or something. So, in other words, if I want to go fast, then I probably would prefer to do something that's design build so I overlap. If I want to reduce my risk, in many cases I might go a traditional design bid build type arrangement and so on and so forth. Those projects that were more successful, the project teams were aligned toward a common goal, but they were also aligned with management. And many times that vertical alignment's missing when you have projects that go off the tracks. So we saw that. We found that projects that were new, different, as it says here, new technology, when the project team realized that and put the right people engaged in that and did more time in understanding what those projects were about, they were more successful. Some people just felt like, hey, we've done a project before, it's something new, excuse me, then we can actually just make this a reality. Oops. Team building, pretty straightforward. Projects that had good team building and good teams perform better. If we had the right people and the right experience in the right places, the projects went better. And then we found out that leadership, I know it's kind of something that everyone throws out, but when we looked at leadership, We found that those projects that were more successful had better leadership at the executive level and also at the project level, both on the owner or client side and also on the contractor side. So the 9 rules are things that we observed over the period of time that actually provided value for the projects. How many of you have had or been on projects, and you don't have to raise your hand, you don't have to smile, and how many of you have been on projects where you broke some of these rules? Probably so. And usually it comes back to pay as you get forward and further into the process. So we run into those all the time. If you don't follow these rules, you might end up at this train station. And that's not the train station that we want to be at.